The topic is rounding and estimating. The objectives in this topic are round whole numbers, use rounding to estimate sums and differences, and solve problems by estimating. So rounding a whole number means approximating it. So here's a number line, a line with numbers on it, and there's a dot on that number line at 26. 26 is closer to 30 than it is to 20. So 26 rounded to the nearest 10 would be 30. Literally, the two closest tens to 26 are 20 and 30. It's between them. Which one is the nearest 10? Rounding to the nearest 10 on a number line literally physically means which is the nearest. And it's nearest to 30. A number line with a point at 52. The nearest tens to 52 are 50 and 60, and we're closer to 50. So 52 rounded to the nearest 10 is 50. So it looks like if we're on the right side, we go to the right. If we're on the left side, we go to the left. But what about if we're exactly in the middle? If we look at 25, which is halfway between 20 and 30, it's not closer to one or the other. In such a case, the rule is that we round to the larger 10. Round up if you're right in the middle. So we round 25 up to 30. In general, the procedure to round whole numbers to a given place value. Step 1, locate the digit to the right of the given place value. If this digit is 5 or greater, add 1 to the given place value and replace each digit to its right by 0. If it's less than 5, replace it and each digit to its right by 0. No adding 1 to the given place value. So what does all that mean? That was a bunch of words. Well, chances are you're familiar with rounding numbers already. But if not, let's break it down with numbers 1, 2, and 3 here. In 1, we want to round 568 to the nearest 10. So first we find the 10's place value, and we look 1 to the right. The 10's place value is this digit 6. 1 to the right has an 8. Is an 8 5 or greater? Yes. So since it was 5 or greater, we take our 6, we bump it up to 7. Everything to the right becomes a 0. 570. In other words, 68 is closer to 70 than it is to 60. In number 2, we're rounding 278,362 to the nearest 1,000. Find the thousands place value. That's this digit 8. Look 1 to the right. We have a 3. Is a 3 5 or greater? No, it is not. So it becomes a 0 and everything to the right becomes a 0. The 8 stays an 8. In other words, 8,362 is closer to 8,000 than it is to 9,000. In number 3, 248,982. We want this to the nearest 100. We find the hundreds spot. That is a 9. We look 1 to the right. That is an 8. Is an 8 5 or greater? Yes, it is. So the 9 bumps up to a 10. We can't fit a 10 in there. So we carry the 1, 249,000. Everything to the right became a 0. In other words, 900 is closer to the next 1,000 than it is to 0. Or I should say 982 is closer to the next 1,000 than it is to 900. There we go. Got a little confusing once the number that changed wasn't in the hundred spot. But the 9 rounded up to a 10, which bumped the 8 up to a 9. All because of the 8 to the right of the 9. I feel like the more I say, the more I'm confusing you, so let's move on. Next, let's estimate the sum by rounding each number to the nearest 100. So the nearest 100, we have the 1s, the 10s, the 100s. This would be 2,000, 2,000, and 2,000. Here, the 0 has a 1 to the right of it, so the 0 does not round up, 2,000. Here, the 0 has a 0 to the right of it. The 0 does not round up, so 2,000. And here, the 9 has an 8 to the right of it. The 9 does round up. The 19 bumps up to a 20, 2,000. Why would we want to do that? Well, 2,000 plus 2,000 plus 2,000 is 6,000. So that gave us an estimate of the sum that did not require us to actually add these numbers. By the way, if we actually did add these numbers, we'd get a 5 and then a 9 and then a 9 and then a 5, 5,995, which is awful close to 6,000. So an estimate is a close estimate, but it's not exact. Jared Nuss scored 89, 92, 100, 67, 75, and 89 on his biology tests. Round each score to the nearest 10 to estimate his total score. So we won't get exact. So we won't get this exact sum, but we will look at the sum of 90, 90, 100, 70, 80, and 90. Rounds up, rounds down. Stays the same. Rounds up, rounds up, rounds up. It's a little easier because we have a row of zeros, but 9 plus 9 is 18, plus 10 is 28, plus 7 is 35, plus 8 is 43, plus 9 is 52. So 52 with a 0 to the right, 520. Tasha Kilby is trying to estimate how far it is from Gove, Kansas to Hayes, Kansas. Round each given distance on the map to the nearest 10 to estimate the total. So we start in Gove. Maybe it's Govey. I've never heard of either of these cities. From there to Grainfield is 11. From Grainfield to Quinter is 16. From Quinter to Wakeny, Wakini is 19. And then to Hayes is 31, all in miles. Instead of an exact distance, we want an estimated distance. So round each to the nearest 10. So we take our actual distances and we round. The 11 goes to 10. The 16 goes up to 20. The 19 goes up to 20. The 31 goes down to 30. 10 plus 20 is 30, plus 20 is 50, plus 30 is 80. A lot easier to get to than the actual, but it's only an estimate. In 2010, there were 15,427 reported cases of chickenpox, 2,612 reported cases of mumps, and 27,550 reported cases of pertussis, or whooping cough. Round each number to the nearest thousand to estimate the total number of cases reported for these preventable diseases. So we take our actual amounts and we'd round each to the nearest thousand. So 15,400 rounds down to 15,000. 2,600 rounds up to 3,000. 27,500 rounds up to 28,000. That's 18 and 28. That's 46. So the estimate is 46,000. A lot easier to get to than the exact, but it's only an approximation. And that's it for this topic.